episode 90 of One Man's Opinion. Today I am discussing the new Broadway play, Goodnight Oscar, written by Doug Wright, running through August 27th at the Belasco Theater at 111 West 44th Street in New York City.
You know what people do when they're surprised, shocked, and uncomfortable?
Oh, I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
They laugh. Well, only an idiot would come on a show like this and discuss politics. And guess what?
What?
I'm an idiot.
Directed by Lisa Peterson, Goodnight Oscar stars Sean Hayes as the brilliant but mentally troubled pianist Oscar Levant, who made a career out of not only being one of the foremost interpreters of George Gershwin, but also his cutting wit that shook the conservative sensibilities of the 1950s and 60s. Probably the most famous piece of Oscar Levant's history was his supporting role in the 1951 film An American in Paris, playing Gene Kelly's friend Adam, who gets a couple great sequences, including one where he plays the third movement from Gershwin's Concerto in F for piano and orchestra. It's one of my favorite movies, not least because of Levant's presence. Levant also had quite a bit of television attention too, often appearing on talk shows, even hosting his own short-lived show. It's at one of these talk show appearances that Goodnight Oscar is set. It is 1958, and Oscar has been institutionalized for about a month due to his mental illness and substance abuse. His wife June, played by Emily Bergel, has successfully acquired a 4-hour leave of absence for Oscar so he can appear on The Tonight Show starring Jack Parr. Jack, played by Ben Rappaport, is trying to get his live television show over with the national audiences and thinks Oscar would make a daring interview, as Oscar is known for making off-the-cuff jokes and easily offend the more conservative audiences. As NBC producer Bob Sarnoff, played by Peter Grosz, frets over what the FCC or the League of Decency or any other watchdog organization may do if Oscar says something offensive, June, Jack, and Alvin Finney, who is a medical assistant supervising Oscar's leave, played by Marchant Davis, do their best to keep the mentally unstable Oscar steady long enough to get him through the interview and back to the hospital. All of this goes sideways as Max Weinbaum, played by Alex Wise, the well-intentioned stage assistant and nephew of Bob, gives Oscar a bottle of Demerol from Alvin's medical bag, leading into one of the most riotously funny exchanges between two actors on stage this season, with Rappaport's Jack Parr and Sean Hayes' Oscar Levant, and then one of the most moving performances of the year by Hayes as he sits at the bench of a Steinway grand piano and plays out a song I won't reveal with a what looks like uncontrolled fervor, but would in reality be an artistic balance of angst-ridden passion. And what's great is if you look up the videos of Jack Parr and Oscar Levant's interviews, some of the lines that you hear in the play are actually lifted from these interviews. It's a nice touch and a nice bit of attention to detail, which I appreciate. Hayes is phenomenal, absolutely brilliant. Does he land the reality of Oscar Levant as he truly was? I can't say, as most television footage of Levant and any actual behind-the-scenes behavior of him isn't all that accessible. There is some footage, but not too much. Probably the best thing that I saw that really depicts how he was at the time was a episode of What's My Line, in which you can really see the nervous tics and behaviors that become of a person who has severe OCD like he does. But what I've discovered is fairly close, but it isn't much to work with, and I've never read any of Oscar Levant's memoirs, though now I suppose I'm going to. Regardless of whether or not Hayes' performance is true, he makes Oscar Levant a tragically broken human being, haunted by the ghost of George Gershwin, or at least his own mind of the ghost of Gershwin, played by John Zydrzejewski. Oscar, who was a hypochondriac and suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, is given a variety of little tics and habits that he has to follow in order to keep himself calm. Hayes meticulously taps his cigarette pack 3 times on each side before opening it to remove a cigarette, talks himself through stirring coffee with 4 stirs in one direction, then 4 the other. Hayes' attention to these neurotic details are a joy to watch, even though we are watching the continued mental deterioration of one of the beloved musicians and wits of the mid-20th century. His dissociative moments where he is haunted by the voices in his head are intense with melancholic sadness and distress, but also colored and balanced with a touch of ironic humor. Rappaport is excellent as Jack Parr as well, and really does capture the charismatic charm of the talk show host. Burgle is great as the long-suffering wife June. Her love of her husband is the most altruistic, and Burgle expresses it with tenderness and sadness. The rest of the cast, Davis, Grosz, Weiss, and Zdrojewski, are all delightful as well in their respective roles. The set design by Rachel Hauck and costumes by Emilio Sosa are sublime. I love the details of the late 50s furniture and costuming. The green room where most of the play takes place is perfect, and the padded walls that line the actual stage walls, upstage of the set, give an oppressive reminder of where Oscar Levant came from and where he really is psychologically throughout the play, even though we are laughing both at him and with him the entire time. Then, once the piano rolls out for the play's finale, the studio lights shine down on it and Oscar like heat lamps, looking to broil him. Goodnight Oscar is fantastic, Sean Hayes is brilliant, and yes, he does actually play the piano if you don't know, and he is backed by an excellent supporting cast. Though the play is a comedy and it is hilarious throughout, it also gives light to the heartbreaking reality of mental illness, the risk of exploiting it, and horrible truth of how it was dealt with at the time. If for nothing else, see Goodnight Oscar for Sean Hayes, who gives one of the best performances of the year. But I'm only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Goodnight Oscar, I'll leave a link in the description. You can support my channel by becoming a patron over on my Patreon page. I'll leave a link in the description, and any donation you can give is appreciated. You can also support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be the new Broadway play, Summer 1976. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.